Opening this door is the only step needed to start to see all of the future possibilities that are waiting for Nami in the land of giants. From the connections to an ancient weapon to the defeat of an ancient god that will ultimately be bringing her a new status in the form of a giant bounty increase and a new epithet with the weight of the land of the warriors. So let's start by visiting the island that made these connections possible in the first place, Little Garden. The same arc where Usopp's character focus was increased that made us later on make times with him and Elbaf, to the point where people don't even remember the amount of character focus that was placed on Nami alongside him. And the quickest way to show you Nami's importance in that arc is to remember the moment when Usopp was discovering his dream. So while Usopp is realizing the way Dory and Ruggy live their life, Nami's looking for every chance he has to just get away. She's completely unbothered by this whole situation, not showing any little sign of care. But the moment Usopp says, "This is it, this is my goal, I want to become a brave warrior of the sea, I want to be a man of honor like these guys," all of a sudden Nami stops trying to get away and sits alongside Usopp. And even though her words were not necessarily displaying a sense of understanding, her actions were. So now that we remember Nami's focus on Little Garden that ultimately has ties with Elbaf, let's start talking about her connections with the ancient weapon Uranus. But to be able to make any type of connections, we first need to know what the ancient weapon even is. And to quickly answer that, let me show you this. As you were able to see, I believe that the ancient weapon is a bird. Now, without even giving you any type of context, I can still understand why Yuna might be surprised. Because there's a pretty common belief that there is a bird on top of the giant tree that is located on Elbaf, due to connections with Norse mythology. And to be completely honest, I actually agree with this theory. I think the connections make a lot of sense. But what I have to say is that I ended up surprising myself so much with the connections I was able to make just by researching the story itself, that I ended up making this video. So if you remember what I showed you before, you might not think that there's anything important about this connection between Nami and this bird, and I totally get that. But if I added some context for you, I'm sure that your perspective will be in constant shift throughout this video. Because if we start to analyze this movie, which is heavily Nami focused by the way, is where we can start to see the bigger picture. And that all starts with reminding you that in this movie we get one of the most mysterious scenes in the entire story, in which Goldie Roger gets saved from Shiki's fleet by a random storm that literally spawned out of nowhere. And the crazy thing about this is that Shiki was asking Roger to join him because of a certain apocalyptic weapon that Roger had in his possession. And what do we see? A giant egg on the back of Roger's ship, which many believe to be Uranus. That explaining how the storm appeared and how Roger was able to escape despite being in the middle of the storm. So what is the most important thing this common belief leaves us with? Well, it's that Uranus is a bird-type creature that is able to control the weather. And what's the most prominent creature we see in this movie? Well, it happens to be a bird that goes by the name of Billy that is literally able to generate lightning. And all of these connections were made by just one single movie. If things already start to make sense for you, see what we find in the actual story itself. So now that we know what Uranus is, how does Nami connect with it? Well, this could have been explained with the movie alone by just watching how Nami interacts with Billy. But there's actually a lot of connections between Nami and birds. But to not make things seem like a stretch, let me show you the most prominent ones I was able to find. So in this cover page, we're able to see the Straw Hats having a race on giant birds. But the interesting thing about this is that some of the crew members are riding on a bird-shaped ark, specifically with Nami in the front. And I believe that this might be the way that Uranus is going to be carrying its conduit. So here we see the Straw Hats planning adventures alongside animals that are mostly birds. And if we focus on the one that is alongside Nami, we can notice that it's the only one that has a crown. This is maybe letting us know that Nami will become friends with the king of the birds. And if we zoom in on the map that Nami's holding, we can start to talk about their purpose. So what would be the purpose of having Nami being the conduit of an ancient weapon? Well, even though there can certainly be a lot of events that come from these connections, the one that I decided was so if we are getting to Norse mythology and expecting that we are going to see a giant bird on Elbaf, the most likely assumption is that there will also be a giant snake. But why will Nami and Uranus be the one to take it out? Wouldn't it be more fitting to have a character that resembles some type of god to a certain degree? Well, what if I told you that Nami is actually the one that is going to become a goddess? But that would be in the eyes of the most important people of the entire island, the giants. Because I'm here to tell you that the perception that they will have on Nami might not be what you expected, and it will all start from the beginning stages of the arc. Because what would you think would happen if these people saw that a person was able to control the weather, have the literal embodiment of the sky as a weapon, that has sentient life and is able to mimic the form of the weapons of certain gods, and then being able to control one of the gods that is located in their own island to go and take out one of the biggest threats in their entire history, would be more than enough to make them consider her to be some type of deity. And so, considering the amount of influence she will have on the land of giants, plus the connections with an ancient weapon, there will ultimately be a new bounty increase to match the new status that she has acquired, in the number of 667,050 berries. This giving her the amount that all of the Straw Hats combined once had after the events of Enies Lobby. All this placed on one of the new deities of the land of giants, Nami, the Lightning Warrior.